Those of you who are not accustomed to this form of greeting, it means that with thought, word, and deed, I salute the divinity within you. For everyone is divine, not only potentially divine, but divine as you are. Every cell in your body is divine. For all that comes from divinity must be divine. Good. Now, as a rule, I never prepare a talk or a lecture. I leave it to the audience. And the best way to do it is for you to ask me a question. I'll speak an hour or 2 hours, or as long as you like to sit to listen to me. Fine. So let me hear some of your most profound philosophical questions. There was silence before the storm. Yes.
Could you speak on man's conditioning?
Aha, very beautiful. Any more, I can handle half a dozen questions at the same time. Yeah.
There are servants for the universe.
What are they?
There are no solutions for that, but there are solutions.
Beautiful. We'll start with that meanwhile. Your question is? Man's conditioning. Now, we've got to define the meaning of conditioning. And once we define the meaning of conditioning, what do we mean by conditioning? Every person on earth walking this earth is conditioned to a certain extent. The only person that is not conditioned is the self-realized man. Now, how does man get conditioned? Now, conditioning could also mean patterning, or a man flowing in certain molds. His life is molded by his thought forces. Where do thoughts come from? Now, individuality is only gained by his personal method of thinking or conditioning. For all thoughts have to translate themselves into action. And that action determines how he lives. For thought is a thing. Thought is subtle matter which is brought to its grosser level by the actions you perform. So, the mind that produces the thoughts is but the subtle form of the grosser body. In other words, the mind is a continuum of the grosser body. But there in the mind, what section of the mind are you using that translates itself into action? You're using a very small portion of the conscious level of the mind, which is not total consciousness, because it is the very patternings or conditionings that gives man the ability or the power to do what he does. And man does not act in totality because his entire mind is not used. A very small portion. They say that Einstein only used 8% of his brain. Now the brain contains 2 billion cells. And we are using 1/1,000,000th of the 2 billion cells. So that goes to show how little we use of the brain. So through meditation and spiritual practices, we activate the cells of the brain so that the greater flow of the mind can come through. For there is only one mind. There is only one universal mind, and what you regard to be your mind could be compared to a bubble in a big pond. So that little bubble is the individuality in the universality of that pond. So the bigger the bubble, the more air and water it would contain, or more of the currents of the pond. So, what is the difference between the individual mind and the universal mind? Is just form, name and form. We call it a bubble, the other we call a pond. And it is because of the name and form that man suffers from so many illusions and delusions, which causes most of the patternings. I was saying in Seattle the other day that 99.9% of the people of the world are insane. True sanity comes about by using the totality of oneself. Now, the conditioning and the patternings we have is because of all the turmoil and the turbulence that is in the subconscious level of the mind. The subconscious level of the mind is a memory box, a storehouse of impressions of all the experiences you have gained in this lifetime or in previous lifetimes, if you believe in that. So, from the time of the Big Bang, which is the present cycle of this universe, through the various kingdoms of the mineral, plant, animal, to the stage of primitive man, and to the so-called civilized man now, all those impressions are stored in your memory box. So this means that you are the sum totality of your entire past, and that is the conditioning. Now, if anything is conditioned, it has to be unconditioned. One has to reach one's real self, that which we regard to be the real self, referring to the body or the mind, is not your real self. The mind is but a superimposition upon reality. A superimposition, though eternal, it is forever changing upon the screen, which is changeless. It's like a cinema screen, and all the things are happening there, the story is going on, and you're moved from scene to scene, from incident to incident, and yet you go near the screen, they seem so real, the people there, but you go near there and you touch, and what do you touch? You touch the screen and not the people that are reflected on the screen. So, from the manifesta comes this manifestation, and the manifestation too is real in the relative sense, but it is not the totality of reality. What I teach is how to draw from within oneself and bring down the manifestation bring down the manifesta into the manifestation which we see around us. And that is where the process begins of unconditioning ourselves. Now, this, as I said before, is done through meditation and spiritual practices. Through a very systematic and scientific manner, we lead the conscious mind through the various layers of the subconscious. Unfortunately, science does not know very much about the mind. They've just touched the fringes of the ocean. They're still on the seashore, dipping their little toes. For it is so vast as the universe. For everything that happens in the universe is happening in you, and you are totally inseparable from the universe. There is no separation. If you are sitting there and I'm sitting here, do you think we are apart? We are not. If you have a strong enough microscope, you'd find millions and millions and billions of atoms connecting everyone to each other. There is no emptiness. For fullness comes only from fullness. So if divinity is regarded to be omnipresent, then he is present everywhere. And being present everywhere, there is no space for emptiness. So therefore, you are totally full. You are totally full. You do not need spiritual development. You only need spiritual unfoldment. For you are fully developed as you are. You are divine. And the conditioning that takes place is because of the impressions that are lodged within your mind, in your subconscious mind, which translates itself because everything is finding expression. It has to find expression. Everything is in motion. And it is that very motion that activates the universe. So, likewise, the subconscious mind also has to express itself, and its only vehicle would be the conscious mind, which in turn is translated through thought forms, and thoughts are interpreted in actions. And that is why we find different people behaving differently according to their conditioning. Now, what can we do about it? That is the question. How can we get away from this conditioning? And this conditioning is one of the root causes of the law of karma. I'm sure you know the word. One of its interpretations is, whatever you sow, that shall ye reap. Now, this is very, very true in the relative sense, but there is a way out. If you have killed 10 people, that does not mean you will be killed 10 times. Save the lives of 11 people and you have 1 in the credit balance. So the law of karma operates like a balance sheet. So that instead of being in the red, you are in the black. Such as thoughts. For 5 seconds you're thinking a negative thought. Then with a little effort, with a bit of awareness, for the next 6 seconds you think a positive thought. 1 in the credit balance. Next 10 seconds, a negative thought. Then a positive thought for 12 seconds, 3 in the credit balance. And like that throughout the waking state of life, as you go on throughout the day, you will sleep better at night. And times that by 365 days, times that by 70 years and 10, which is supposed to be the normal lifespan of man. And then you'd be leaving this world, shedding this body, a better person than what you came. You see, and that is a mark of evolution. That is a mark of unfoldment. And this can only be done on an individual basis. Great reformers like Krishna, Buddha, Mahavir, and Christ has come, but they could not reform the masses. But the individual in his personal capacity can be reformed, or transformed rather. He, through the systematic process, scientific process of spiritual practices, can lead his mind, his conscious little mind, through the various layers of the subconscious mind to that which I call the superconscious level of the mind, which is as at its greatest stillness and yet in motion, because it is at the finest level of relativity. It is like a top which children play. When it is spun very fast, it seems to be standing still, and yet there's fast movement there, it is spinning. Now that level of the superconscious mind, which each and every one can reach, there is stillness, and then you will realize the true meaning of the scriptural injunction, be still and know that I am God. And yet there is motion. Good. Now, we do not need to worry so much about all the impressions that are in the subconscious mind. People are very worried, I've done this, I've done that, and I am going to suffer for it. No, you don't need to suffer. The world's greatest disease today is not cancer and neither heart troubles. The world's greatest disease is the sense of guilt. They feel guilty about things. Why do they feel guilty about things? It is because they live in the past. Auntie Mathilda said something last week, and you're still living it today. Thinking about that and hurting yourself over and over again. And then, if we do not live in the past, we take the occurrences of the past and project it into the future. So we either live in the past or we live in the future, but never here and now. And this here and now is eternity. I've said this morning in a radio broadcast that, quoting Blake, where he says eternity in an hour, I say eternity in a moment. For it is only the moment that is important. The fullness of life is in this moment. And to know the secret of the moment, one has to be aware. And we lack awareness. Our awareness is very limited. The awareness should be such that you can embrace the entire universe. Embrace it in your arms. For you are the universe. The entire universe is in you. And you'd only find this world and the universe according to what you firmly believe. And all these various belief systems add on to greater and greater conditioning. There is one religion in the world that teaches you that you shall not partake of wine or women and things like that. And if you lead an abstemious life, when you pass over to the other side, there'll be rivers of wine flowing and haris, huris, I don't know how you pronounce that, pretty damsels to look after you. And so this man comes to me and asks me, Guru Raj, is this true? Will I get that on the other side? I say yes. You will get whatever you believe in. You will experience on the other side whatever thing which is deeply planted in your mind. So this means that you create your heavens and you create your hells and you yourself creates various planes of existences which are all illusory because they are projections of a conditioned mind. And religions have been so misinterpreted today. They've been so watered down. There was this Mullah Nasruddin, and someone knocked on his door and brought him a lot of vegetables. So this Mullah thought, what shall I do with the vegetables? Let me make a nice pot of soup. So he made a pot of soup and had some himself. And then there was another knock on the door, and he says, I'm the friend of the person who brought you the vegetables. So Mullah invited him in. It's an Eastern custom always to offer something to a guest, and he gave this person a bowl of soup. Then later another knock came, and he said, I'm the friend of the friend who brought you the vegetables. And of course he too was given a bowl of soup. And the third person came, and the fourth person, and the fifth person. Mind you, there the soup was getting less and less, so the mullah had to keep on adding some more and more water. Because anyone that came to the door, it was his duty to offer something. So when the seventh and the eighth and the ninth knock came, and this man says, the mullah, I'm the friend of 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 the friend who brought you the vegetables. He says, please come in, sit down. Gave him a bowl of soup. So when this man started eating the soup, he says, oh, Mullahji, this is not soup, this is water. So the mullah replies, seeing that you are the friend of the friend of the friend of the friend of the friend, this is the soup of the soup of the soup of the soup. So like that, all religions, theologies, and philosophies have been so watered down. My teaching is based upon one principle. I move away from all the trappings and rituals which are necessary for many people at their stage of evolution, which are necessary. Nothing wrong with them. It brings about devotion. It's good. But my main idea is to find the basis, the truth that underlies all religion. And after having studied and meditated in the Himalayas over a number of years, trudging from guru to guru, from teacher to teacher, and learning and yearning and searching, I found that the basis of all these religions is but one. If you understand Christianity well, you will understand Hinduism well. If you understand Hinduism well, you will understand Buddhism well. Like that. So therefore I always say that if you are a Christian, I want you to become a better Christian. If you are a Hindu, a better Hindu. If you are a Muslim, a better Muslim. And see, for truth is one. If you look on your folders, we have a picture of our emblem there. And you'll find all the major religions portrayed on the cover. Yes, and they are mounted, and there's one that has the eternal spiral, which stands for all the other religions and belief systems, personalized belief systems perhaps, that could not be included on that emblem. The emblem is mounted on 5 lines, which we use in musical notation denoting harmony. So I would say that let there be harmony amongst all belief systems, all theologies, all religions, for one purpose, to be led to the light within. Therefore you have the flame in the center. For it is only the light within that matters. The scriptures would say, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven within, and all else shall be added unto thee. See? So whatever path is taken by a person, it is not important, for as Ramakrishna would say, the rivers coming from different directions become one in the same ocean. So what is the purpose of it all? Do we want to find God? How many people really want to find God? Because God, to most people, is an abstract concept. It's an abstract concept. The Hindus do believe in a God with 4 arms, for example. Others might believe a God sitting up there in heaven with an old man on a throne with a long beard, with a few dozen bookkeepers sitting there taking notes. Oh, John has done this today, and Jill has done this today, and Jane or James has done this today. No. It is all within you. For God will always remain a concept of the mind until you come to a realization. It is a matter of self-realization. It has nothing to do with the left hemisphere of the brain, which is analytical and rational. It has more to do with the right hemisphere of the brain, which is intuitional. So self-realization, God-realization, or unity consciousness is a matter of experience. It is experiential, and you all have the quality. You have the potential to experience it. Whatever I could achieve, you can achieve. So this is just a sharing. Sharing. You have all the qualities inbuilt in you to reach, and man is searching not so much for God, but he's searching for happiness. Consciously or unconsciously, he seeks for happiness. And you have all the tools. There was this one man who used to go to a cafeteria and ordered a tin of soft drinks. Tin of soft drinks. So the shopkeeper served him. He sat down at the table and he took out a can opener from his pocket and opened the can and he drank the soft drink. Next day he came again, he did the same. And the shopkeeper was watching him. But why does this man use a can opener? So a few weeks passed, and the shopkeeper could stand it no longer. He was very curious. He says, let me ask this man why he uses a can opener. So he goes to this man, he says, excuse me, sir, but you know that tin of soft drinks has that little thingy bob there, which you pull, and you can drink your soft drink. So the man replies that thingy bob there is for people that do not have a can opener. You see, with all the tools inbuilt in you, we are not using it. Now, spiritual practices and meditation has nothing to do with your belief systems. Can be of any religion. This is a scientific method whereby you use your little conscious mind, and there's a hotline to the superconscious level of the mind, bypassing that memory box penetrating through, boring through that memory box, boring through all that dirt of adverse experiences and pleasant experiences perhaps and painful experiences. So man has the ability to use the hotline, but he just does not want to dial. So how can it ring up there? Huh? You see. So, through a systematic process of meditation, which is personally given by a true guru, not a wholesale mantra or what have you supermarket, which is given, personalized, studying the person. Well, that's a different subject, where I would go into meditation and would reach from the superconscious level of the mind. I could measure your emotional state, physical state, your state of evolution, and as a doctor would prescribe a certain kind of medicine for a patient, so a system of meditation is prescribed for the particular individual, because there are no two people alike. Everyone has his own personal needs, everyone has his own conditionings, so therefore you cannot reform the masses. You start with the individual. It is the units that form the whole. Improve the units and the whole will take care of itself. Let's see. So, the process for unconditioning is very simple. It's very simple. If you go to a psychologist who might be using so many different methods, Jung's method, Adler's, or Freud, psychoanalysis, but that does not go deep enough. It only scratches the surface. What happens there at best is the energies contained in the mind are just moved around, which will manifest itself in a different form. In other words, you remove the headache and later you come up with a toothache. So it's a movement of energies from one section to the other. But what we talk about is how to balance the energies. Now the three major energies within man is tamas, rajas and sattva. These are Sanskrit terms. Tamas means inertia and darkness. Sattva means light and knowledge, wisdom, and the activating force between them is rajas. So, these forces, to a person who is not an integrated person, these forces are forever in conflict. There's always a contraction and an expansion all the time. And it is this very conflict of what we call the gunas, these qualities, that causes the patternings of the mind, the conditionings of the mind. So, through spiritual practices, I'm just skimming over this because this is a vast subject, and those of you that come to the intensive or the 9-day course would go far, far deeper into details. We would not have the time to go very deep into it because each of these things is a book on its own. So through spiritual practices, we bring about an equilibrium. Then we are no more on the sea or on the seesaw. For be sure to know, if you have a high, you must have a low. That is the law of opposites. But if you can bring yourself to the center of the seesaw, you will be standing still. And in that stillness, as the scriptures would say, be still and know that I am God, for He is you. God or energy or whatever you'd like to term it, these are labels. And language is very limited. So whatever you want to call it is you, within you, outside you, everywhere, one unified whole. Einstein attempted the unified field theory. He was partly successful. So it's one total wholeness, and it's for man to realize that wholeness. And if you know that you and everything around you are not apart from each other, then how can you hate yourself? If you regard everything to be you and you to be everything. In Sanskrit they would say, Tattvamasi, thou art that. Then they go further to say, Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. I am divine. I am divinity. Christianity says the same. To the illiterate peasants he used to preach, pray to thy Father in heaven. There was this duality. And then to those that were more advanced, he would say, you are a part of God. And then to his closest ones who could understand him well, he would say, I and my Father are one. That is the unified. So, people believe in God. I say, no, believe. It's a good starting point. From belief, you go to faith. And from faith, you reach the area of knowingness. If you tell me that there is a fire in the next room, then I believe what you say. And as I approach nearer the fire and feel the heat coming, then I develop faith that, there is heat. But when I become one with the fire, then I know. So man has the ability of living life in a state of knowingness. So every action that one performs is always a right action and not deliberate action, but a spontaneous action. Life just flows with nature and not against nature. By flowing against nature, further conflicts are created. So it is a great matter of interpretation. And who interprets? The real self in you is beyond all interpretation, and it does not interpret anything. It is the little mind that starts interpreting and sitting in judgment. And yet all the theologians would say, judge ye not that ye be judged. So, interpretation. There were two nuns going on a journey, and they got stuck without petrol. You call it gas, don't you? And the garage was about half a mile away. And so they had to find a container to bring the gas to the car. So they rummaged through the car, and they could only find a chamber pot. Do you call it that, chamber pot? Good. And the only thing they could find was a chamber pot. So they took the chamber pot to the garage, filled it up with gas, and brought it to the car. And while they were pouring it in, two GIs were passing. Soldiers, GIs? Yeah, soldiers were passing. So they watched these two nuns pouring in the gas. So the one GI says, "Excuse me, madam, I don't think that is going to work, but I do admire your faith." The real thing was being poured into the gas tank, but this GI, just seeing the container and the color, thought of something else. He interpreted. TSA. Though, by the way, in America, we have, under the International Foundation of Spiritual Unfoldment, we have organizations throughout the world. In Canada, we call it the Canadian Meditation Society. In America, the American Meditation. In Spain, the Spanish. Denmark, the Danish. German, the German Meditation Society. In England, the English, etc., etc. Fine. And our motto is always life, love, and laughter. Yes. So man's search is for happiness. Now he thinks that he can find joy and happiness by external things. And today's modern technology tends to lead him towards external things. Everything with switch buttons, things like that. But the time has come when man is getting tired of external things, and he is more and more diving deeper and deeper within himself. And there is the area where joy lies. And when he finds the depth of himself, the kingdom of heaven within, then, because of that inner joy, because of that inner stability and tranquility and peace, the peace that passeth all understanding, he would find that peace all around him. And finding that peace around him, he becomes more harmonious with his environment, his home, his family, his friends, his work, his world. And he becomes at one mint. He's atonement at one mint with the world around him. I said this morning that it is the nature of a flower to be beautiful, but that's not the only thing it does. The flower does. It also enhances the beauty of the garden. So therefore, progress has to be on the individual level, and could never be mass indoctrination into happiness. And all the people that went in for mass indoctrination, they've never come out on top. They've done the world more harm, so much harm, indescribable harm. Like Hitler, for example. Hitler went to a fortune teller one day, and he asks the fortune teller, "Can you tell me the day I'm going to die?" So the fortune teller gazed into the crystal ball, and after a few minutes says, "Yes, Herr Hitler, I can tell you, you will die on a Jewish holiday." For the day when Hitler died, it would be a Jewish holiday. Thank God. Yeah. You see, so the masses can never be transformed, but the individual can be transformed. Now, I would not shine the light of truth upon you. No. I shine the light of truth upon the path so that you do not stumble and fall. I tell you that you are divine. The entire world around you is celebrating, but you are not. Yeah? Look at the flowers, the beautiful plants. In their growing, they are celebrating. The fragrance of the flowers, just but a celebration of the flower itself. The blades of grass swaying in the wind. What a divine dance. Listen to the wind as it blows through the trees, the leaves. What a beautiful symphony, a total celebration. And then, why are you unhappy? You that are made of joy, why are you unhappy? The conditioning is an illusion, and we have to get rid of that illusion. But wishful thinking is not going to help. It will create a greater illusion or a different illusion, where wishful thinking would mean that you're living in the future. Now, I do not say get away from materiality. If you have a 5-roomed house, have a 10-roomed house. If you have a Volkswagen, have a Rolls Royce. Enjoy, but do not be too attached to it. Enjoy it for what it is. For you came with nothing, as I was saying the other day, and you go with nothing, and all that's in between is a gift. Enjoy it without attachment. Now, there's a difference between detachment and non-attachment. Detachment would mean you're running away, escaping. I've met many swamis and monks and yogis in the Himalayas, and I found, after questioning them, that they were escaping the world. They couldn't stand the responsibility. But non-attachment is something different. It means to be in the world and yet not of the world. So enjoy everything without being attached to it. Myself, if you serve me a dry piece of bread or a king's feast, as my hosts are so kindly serving me, Barbara and Hugh, beautiful dinners, all right, I enjoy it. But if I was served with a dry piece of bread, I would enjoy it just as much. I wouldn't say, oh, this dry piece of bread, why not a big meal? No. That is non-attachment. You're not attached to your senses. Seeing, hearing, touching, smelling. You do not need to be stomach orientated. Of course, if the choice is there, you choose the best. Why not? Enjoy it. But non-attachment, so that you do not suffer disappointment. For expectation is the mother of disappointment. So why have an appointment with disappointment? Not necessary. There was this man, he was on the verge of death, old man lying in bed, and he was nearly going. So his wife was there, and he asks his wife, where's John? So the wife says, he's standing on your left-hand side. And he asks, where's Peter? He's standing on your left-hand side. Where's James? He's standing at the feet of your bed. At this moment, when he heard this, some strength came into this dying old man, and he sat up a bit. He says, if all of you are here, who's minding the store? Here the man is dying, he's got a few moments to go, and he's worrying about the store. That's it. That is attachment. So, I think we've done an hour. So now what we do is this. We'll have a 10-minute break for whatever you want to do. Stretch your legs, powder your noses, whatever. Fine. And then we get back together again, and then we'll have a rapid question and answer session. And then you can ask me anything you like, and that by that way, everyone will have a chance to ask whatever they want to. So all that is conditioned can be unconditioned through the practice of meditation and other spiritual practices. All that is done can be undone. Why carry that burden? Throw it away. And there's a way to throw it away. You see? So this has to be done on an individual basis. And it's not mass indoctrination. Thank you. See you later.
Get the old golden light.
Chat.
I'm going to save the little leak here. It's getting squeezed. Someone should ask whether they can hear. Those who can't hear are strongly recommended to move forward. If you enjoy the cross sunset, you can cut down the eyeball guru, and I'm sure that you wouldn't mind that at all. So please come down if you can't hear.
You know, in some places in India, they never used to sit far away, they used to sit around me, you know, under the shade of a tree and sit talk. And many talks I used to give in total silence. They'll just sit still, meditate, and they leave different people. I would strongly recommend you to come to the intensive, because here I could only generalize on things. In the 23rd, 24th, it is at this college, I think, in another building, where I'd be putting you through certain practices. And another thing which will be done, that I will go into meditation and make you experience something about divinity, what it is about. So I strongly recommend, if you can manage, to come, for then we have a wider scope, 2 days together, and we'll be doing a lot of things. I want to thank the person that brought me these beautiful flowers. Thank you. Good. Shall we meditate for a few moments just to settle down? Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Open your eyes slowly. Good. A true spiritual teacher does not only teach by words, but he also imparts a spiritual force, which would in turn activate the spiritual force within you. Good. Now, the rapid fire question and answers. Good. Anything?
What's your point of view on vegetarianism?
What is my opinion on? You can eat whatever you like. For vegetarianism has nothing to do with your spiritual self. It has been proven by science, and especially an Indian scientist, Mr. Rao, that there is a heartbeat in a cabbage. Some forms are of lower consciousness and some of more unfolded consciousness, but it's still the same consciousness. So eat whatever you like, according to what your system requires. But when you eat, remember one thing, that I'm putting divinity into divinity. I'm not a faddist. There are certain schools of thought and certain organizations that tell you you must not smoke and you must not eat meat and you must abstain from sex and you must do this and do that. Why? Why create by following these rules? If it is not in your nature, why create psychological repressions and inhibitions unnecessarily? Once a person starts meditating and he feels the presence of divinity within himself all the time, then what you eat does not matter. And what are you eating, by the way? You know, there's a whole cycle there. We plant food, wheat or corn, whatever, and we fertilize it with manure, excretion. That excretion is taken up into the food. You eat that food and you excrete again. What are you eating? Is that also not divine?
But if one would find it abhorrent and thoughtful, kill a living creature for food, would being a hypocrite to eat food that other people kill?
That is true. That is very true. If you find it obnoxious, then do not. Yes. Because your mental patterning is such that you find it to be obnoxious. And that is a good sign. It's a sign of kindness, compassion, whatever you wish to call it. So you do not partake of the things which does not agree with your physical or mental self. You don't oppose yourself. People today, teachers tell you, be like Buddha, be like Krishna, be like Christ. I tell you, be yourself, because that is the only point where you can start from. You do not emulate Christ or Krishna, because that would be false. Be yourself. That would be the truth. And from there you march forward.
Are you vegetarian?
Me, yes, I am a vegetarian, but occasionally I enjoy a little bit of chicken, a little bit of fish. Yes, and I've been around the ashrams in India, and I found, for example, the Ramakrishna ashram. They are one of the most honest people I found as far as ashrams go. Instead of all these money-making gurus that amass millions, I found them very honest. And in those ashrams, they serve light meats, such as chicken, fish, and things like that. It's not harmful. It's not harmful. Your body has nothing to do with its spirit. Some of the world's greatest geniuses were meat eaters. And some of the world's greatest spiritual men, Ramakrishna, partook of fish and meat, and he enjoyed his smoke as well. Vivekananda, he loved his cigar. There's a lovely story of Vivekananda. He came to Chicago and he was invited into a fabulous home in the drawing room where there were carpets of $50,000, $60,000, and he was sitting talking, puffing away on his pipe, and very absent-mindedly he shook off his pipe on the heel of his shoe and then still tramped on it, not realizing that this is such an expensive carpet. I feel sorry for the poor hostess. Nothing wrong, nothing wrong. Be normal. Don't even try to be supernormal, but don't be abnormal. No. Normalcy. That's what the world wants. Normalcy, a balance, an equilibrium. That equilibrium is required for your own happiness. And the more joyous you are, the more cheerful you are, the more closer you are to your center. Nowadays, man just swirls around in the periphery, like a wheel, a cartwheel. The greater attention is paid on the rim. But all the varieties of life, all the spokes on the wheel lead to the center. And the center remains still. So you inside remain still, the axle remains still, you remain still, and let the wheel turn and enjoy the turning of the wheel. That is to be in the world and yet not of the world. So you can live the absolute and the relative simultaneously. Enjoy what the world gives, and at the same time be totally aware of divinity in everything you do, and your actions will be good actions. They will not be actions that you force upon yourself, but they will be spontaneous, and you shine, become radiant in your own spontaneity, because spontaneity makes you flow with nature and not against the current of nature. It's easier to swim with the current in a river, and it's more difficult to swim against the current. For as Hermann Hesse says in his book Siddhartha, at that end was the river, in the middle is the river, and on that end is also the same river. And yet, being the same water, it is forever changing, but it is reaching its goal, the ocean in which it will merge away. That is the secret of life. Questions? I think I've got a few more jokes here. But what happened to my specs? Did I leave it behind there? I think I must have. This minister in church was giving a sermon on intemperance. And he says he wished, thank you, you're very kind of you. He says to the congregation present there that he wished that all the liquor in the world would be dumped into the river. And then after this sermon he says, now let us turn to hymn 94. And the hymn was this: let us all gather at the river. Next question. Whoever. Up top there? Shall we start there? And this lady and then that gentleman. Hi. Thank you. Yes.
It's true that nature is very beautiful, or appears very beautiful. Nature also appears to contain much pain. As just in my cat. Cat has a mouth, I can hear the mouse cry. The mouse appears to be in pain. Is there pain in the universe? Is there pain in unity? Or is that like...
It's a matter of interpretation. For pain and pleasure are two sides of the same coin. One has to rise above pain and pleasure. As I said before, I think that if you have a high, you will have a low. And through spiritual practices, you rise above pain and pleasure and enter the area of joy. And yet pain and pleasure would be there, but you become an observer of the pain and pleasure so that it does not affect you. Your joy is there, and you can observe everything around you with total tranquility. That is a mark of integration. Fragmentation will make you find the pleasures and the pains of life, but integration will give you only joy and nothing but joy. Because you are so merged into divinity, you come to the realization that you are divine yourself, and then you look down and you see all this happening around, it will forever keep on happening. That is what makes the world go round, as the saying goes. But you are the one, the self, not the masses, the self, not the mass around you, but yourself that has to find stability within yourself to enjoy the joy of divinity. You see? So when your heart aches at the cat catching the mouse, it's a sign of compassion, but it is the nature of the cat to eat mice. You could look at it that way. The cat is at the certain level of animal evolution to kill mice. Today I was at a place where there was a fly and buzzing around. So this gentleman caught the fly and he would not kill the fly, so he opens the front door and throws it out, so it flew away. So let all the flies of the mind fly away.
But for the mouse cannot know this joy.
The mouse would not suffer the pain that you would suffer if you were killed, because the mouse has a very low form of consciousness. And then again, if you are killed, dying is no pain at all. It's a misconception. I've died many, many times, been alive again, at will, no pain. It is blissful. Come to the 2-day thing, and I'll go into what life is and what death is, and explain you the details of what happens when you pass over. Every word I speak is not from books, because I've thrown books away a long time ago. I've studied all the philosophies and teachings of people, but that was not enough. A book could never teach me. Whatever I speak is from personal experience, from the heart to your heart via the mechanism of words and the mind. You know, this one guru was thirsty and he passed a saloon, a bar, is that what you call it? And he ordered a glass of milk. So the bartender, by mistake, put in some punch into the milk. And so the guru drank it, and after a few moments, he looked up to the heavens and said, "Lord, what a cow." The next question. Yes, you were next. Grief is the result of attachment. For what do you possess really? You possess nothing at all. There is nothing to be possessed, and neither could you be possessed. So grief is because of attachment, and that attachment should not be there. There again it is the conditioning of the mind that makes one feel attached. Your mother, anyone's mother, say, might have passed away, or daughter, father, son, and you have grief. Why is the grief there? The grief is in your own mind. It is in your own mind. Look, this had to happen. It's the law of nature. Anything that is born must decay and die. And that was the main principle that led Buddha to find himself, to find enlightenment. But why must there be old age? Why must there be decay? Why must there be death? So, if we are non-attached and we develop acceptance, that is the antidote for grief. Acceptance. I accept whatever circumstances I am placed in. And once one has acceptance, one develops a better understanding. With a better understanding, there's greater sympathy, there's greater kindness, there's greater compassion. And in the acceptance, one realizes that you can never change the laws of nature, but you can go beyond the laws of nature until you become a law unto yourself with total integration or self-realization. So people suffer grief. They can't help it. But if they have that integration, that inner strength, the grief goes away. And one would say, well, this had to be, it has to be. You see, there are a lot of things in life we have to accept. You know the serenity prayer, God give me the strength to change the things I can, or the courage to accept the things which I cannot change, something like that. It's a very good prayer. Yes. You cannot change if a person, a loved one has passed away, you cannot change the circumstances. What kind of love are you talking about? Love is total, it's a very vast subject, my favorite one there. I'm the great love of life, of the world. I do not love, I am love. Fine. What kind of love are you talking about? Because, she's pretty, she's got a cute nose, she's got lovely hair, lovely, what do they call that? I'm a man of the world. I'm a teacher for the householders. I've lived this life and I know each and every experience and emotion that you would go through or are going through, and I've gone beyond that all. So I can speak candidly. So the man is handsome or the girl is pretty, so that's an attraction. If a boy and a girl meet each other and say, we've fallen in love with each other, I would say that is a total lie. You cannot fall in love, you get elevated by love. So at first the attraction might be necessary, but love grows like a flower bud. It flowers, blossoms into the fullness, the beauty of that flower. That is love. Love requires acceptance. Love requires tolerance. Love requires understanding. And not. You marry a pretty girl or a handsome man. Do you know that after a month, you don't notice the prettiness anymore or the handsomeness of the man anymore? So, what have you married, or who do you love? Are you marrying because you love the person, or are you marrying your personal mental concept, your idea of the person? Now, if you marry your personal mental idea of the spouse, then naturally your mental idea is going to change. Or if that person does not live up to your expectation, and as I said before, that expectation is the mother of disappointment, then you feel disappointed. And you say, oh, I love so much. Love is a giving. If you love a woman or a woman loves a man, you don't find any discrepancies. Because who do you love really? You love the divinity in the person. And that requires self-integration. So the more you are integrated, the more could you see the divinity in your beloved. There's a lovely Persian poem which I'm very fond of. I'm sure all of you understand Persian. Shall I? No. Good. I'll give a loose English rendering. This man went to knock on his beloved's door, and she asked, who is it? And he says, I'm John. The door was not opened. The next night he went again, and he knocked on the door, And she asks, who is it? And he says, I'm John Henderson from Victoria. The door was not opened. And when he went the third night again, and he knocked on the door and she asks, who is it? That's a wise thing for a woman to do, always ask if she's alone. Good. When she asked at the third night, who is it? He said, I am thee, my beloved. And the door was immediately opened. We see the oneness. And that is what we seek, unity consciousness. And slowly from dualism, the I and thou concept of Buddha or others, you reach a qualified non-dualism, and then you reach a total non-dualism, where nothing is apart from you, nothing is separated from you, all is one, all is divine, and then only would you know the true meaning of the commandment, love thy neighbor as thyself, because thy neighbor is thyself. Thy neighbor is the reflection of yourself. You say, yeah.
The beauty about it, it's down on the concept of divinity.
You want me to write 10 volumes here now? Divinity is not a concept. And all concepts or precepts are of the mind only. Divinity is to be experienced. As I was saying again the other day, that we can take sugar and send it to a laboratory and find out the chemical compounds and the structure, the atomic structure of the sugar grain. But you can't explain sweetness. You have to taste it yourself. And I can make you taste the sweetness of sugar. Yes.
In the form that you believe it's actually one of us in the coming from.
Yeah. That's true. Yes, that is true. Divinity could also be defined as an indefinable energy. And got it. Divinity can be defined as an indefinable energy, and energy is none separate than matter. Both are one, the same, two aspects of the same thing. So therefore, that indefinable energy can be perceived in a tangible form in matter. So if you ask me, show me God, I will point to you with a leather jacket on, and I'd say, I see God sitting there. It's just been solidified. It's like water vapor. It can be condensed into water, and the same water can be frozen in the fridge and made into a block of ice. And yet the principle H2O remains the same. The divine doesn't matter, dear. It's okay. So the principle H2O remains the same in the water vapor, and in the water and in the block of ice. So what are we looking at? And say, oh, this is a block of ice, this is water, and that's gaseous matter, vapor. We are differentiating because of name and form. We are seeing the same H2O in different forms, yet it is still H2O. Everything is divine. Oh, there was this man who was a great football fan. Football, do you play it in Victoria? Football. Good. So he goes to his church minister, and he says to the minister, Sir, you speak to God every day. Would you ask a question to him for me? Do they have football in heaven? So the minister says, okay, I will speak to God. You come back a week later. So a week goes by and this man goes to the minister and says, is there football in heaven? What did God answer you? So the minister says, yes, they have football in heaven. And they've also reserved a seat for you in next week's big match. Next question. That gentleman up top there? Yeah, 3. Come on.
You talk that we should accept our will. How does that connect with feeding to world's hungry when there is?
Yes, that's true. And the stupid governments, because of economics, are destroying food. And instead of exporting it to the poor, hungry, starving people. And the basis of that is just economics. To preserve a certain balance in economics. The entire world revolves on economics. Look at this, God's free air that you breathe, God's earth that you walk on. You're paying for breathing. You're paying for walking on this earth in the form of taxes, aren't you? You see, so everything revolves around economics. And one country destroyed several billion tons of maize. Corn, you call it here, don't you? While in that same country there's so much poverty amongst the blacks. This was done. Because if they had to distribute those billions of tons of corn, then the price of corn would go down. You see. So it's a racket. Truly, sir.
And the second question, which is much different, is there such a thing as a Kundalini?
Kundalini. I made about 3-4 years ago a set of tapes, 2 of them on Kundalini and blasting it to pieces. According to certain Eastern scriptures, they talk of chakras. And of course, the first chakra at the bottom, for a man, it is between the penis and the scrotum, the area there. There is the Muladhara chakra. For a woman, is at the cervix, where the womb begins, is the Muladhara chakra. Then you have the Swadhisthana chakra, which is at the base of the coccyx. And then you have the Manipura chakra, which is at the navel, and the Anahata chakra of the heart area, Visuddha at the throat center, Ajna there, and Sahasrar, the 1,000-petal rose, 1,000-petal lotus. And they say that by doing certain practices, those lotuses open up. They say that there is a serpent coiled round at the Muladhara chakra, 3.5 coils, which is lying dormant and sleeping. And through certain breathing and other practices, you awaken that serpent. So it climbs up what they term the Sushumna, the middle column. And as it goes up, the poor snake, as it goes up the Sushumna, it reaches the 1,000-petal lotus, which is up top here, and you are enlightened. Beautiful. The truth is this, that your brain is not limited to your head only, but the spinal cord from the medulla that goes down is also part of your brain, from the spinal cord, varies the nervous complex, various capillaries and blood vessels lead off, and nerves and what have you. And chakras, if you wish to use that term, chakras means vortexes of energies. Now, all these vortexes of energies are in your brain and in the spinal column. So you can activate those vortexes of energy if they are not functioning as they should. So the chakra system, I do not condemn nor condone. The chakra system could be very symbolic in describing the vortexes of energy. In other words, it helps you to concentrate. That's what it does. But one can do it in so many different other ways, much more easier ways. Instead of sitting there and thinking of a particular chakra that has certain forms, some are in a square, and each one of those chakras has its own goddess, Lakshmi, Durga, blah, 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 and then they have their own vehicles, elephant and a tiger, and all that, and you're supposed to concentrate on that until you visualize it. And when your visualization is total, they say that chakra has opened. There's no such thing as opening a chakra. If the chakras were not open, you would not be alive. If you did not have those vortexes of energy in you, you would be what we call dead. So there are many belief systems that have been pressed upon the mind of the Western man, although I don't believe in East, West, North or South. To me it's one world, one humanity, one mass. So these things are more or less symbolic, but people have taken it very, very literally. This one minister was posting a Bible, made a nice parcel, was posting a Bible to one of his parishioners, and the man behind the counter at the post office asked, "Sir, is there anything unbreakable in here? Or is there anything breakable in here?" So the minister replies, "Yes, there is something breakable, the 10 Commandments." The next question, I think it was over there.
Honesty and truth.
Truth?
Honesty and truth.
Didn't catch you.
Those 3 words connect.
Truth?
Truth.
Honesty? Honesty. Oh, I can't get used to your Victorianese. Truth, honesty, and
True. TRU.
TR, truth and true, honesty. Yeah, fine.
When I know the truth. Or in other words, what is the truth?
Another question for 10 volumes. Truth can be realized by yourself. Everything is truth. Everything in existence is truth. But one progresses from a lower truth to a higher truth. And when through spiritual practices you become more and more integrated, you would progress from a lower truth to a higher truth, and that realization will dawn upon you, because truth is not merely an intellectual matter. Truth, which is divinity itself, there's no separation. Truth, love, divinity is but one. And that you have to realize for yourself. What is true for you might, at a higher level, might be something of a lower truth to another person. So, the variation occurs in truth because of conditioning. So it's a definition you have to reach by yourself. And when the scriptures tell you that this is truth, you will believe in them. But that is not enough. That takes you nowhere. By just believing, you must experience it. This is truth. For the eyes and the ears could be so deceiving. Like a thirsty man in a desert, he sees a mirage. To him at that moment, because of his thirst, you would think it is water, and yet just an illusion. But for that moment, it was true to him. Yes, eh? So truth too, like God and love, is indefinable. But there's one thing in practical living. With me, I normally try to bring down the profoundest philosophies into practical daily life. I don't want you to believe in God or a God somewhere up there in heaven. I want the living God on earth, that we live God. And that is truth. And so when scriptures tell you this is true, by all means, why deny? Why negate that? Because everything is perfect, everything is truth. Everything is truth. And that is how, in that vast awareness, you find greater and greater, subtler and subtler truths, until you reach that level where you do not seek truth anymore, you become the truth. Beautiful. Whose hand up was first? I didn't know. Okay.
Can celibacy and conservation of sexual energy play an important role in the path of enlightenment?
Absolute bull. Yes. Yoga system. But also belief system. If divinity wanted you to be a celibate, why did he give you the organs of copulation? Yes, I'm against excessiveness and lust. But in a normal way, between two people that love each other, there is nothing wrong. If from the beginning of time, when man first came about and they started with celibacy, where would you be? Definitely not here in this hall. But yeah.
Ramkrishna gave the example. He was married, but he still chose to be a celibate.
Yes, because he was ascetically minded. So if you are that way inclined, then good for you. Celibacy has done a lot of harm, because some of these Eastern schools of thought tell you become a celibate and sublimate that sexual energy into what they call orges, that rises up and makes you enlightened. Orges means light, really. No, it does not. People, I was saying the other day, don't even know how to make love. They make love with their minds as a mental thought, a wave, because of past pleasurable experience, and the thought arises, and which is translated in its physical equivalent by copulation. And that is not the totality of the sex act. That is lust. Love is when you can combine your spiritual self and your mental self and your physical body in the sexual act. Then what happens is this, that there is no lust. The woman disappears, the man disappears, and only a vast orgasm remains. And after all, this entire universe is nothing but an orgasm. A vast universal orgasm. That is one of the highest experiences a man can have. I'm not talking of lust. I'm talking of love. And you melt away. You melt away, you find that total oneness. And why do you want to copulate with the women? Because some people, most people, do it for a biological release. They don't do it for love. The proper way for a man and a woman to get together should be for one purpose, to try and merge into each other. The feelings within the heart is so great that they want to merge, become one. And sometimes they wish they could use super glue to stick to each other. So, to find that physical oneness, the interpenetration occurs. That is it. Lust, I do not agree with. That's animalism. But the love of man for a woman in humanity, humanness, there's nothing wrong. Nothing wrong at all. We say that by conserving the sexual energy, it could be transmuted into light, sublimated. No. By willfully controlling your sexual appetite, which is just a biological function as going to the bathroom, nothing different. Your soul that and create in your mind inhibitions and inhibitions which are meant. If by inclination you are a celibate, then by all means follow that path. Nothing wrong. By inclination, if you are a monk, then become a monk. I personally wanted to become a monk, but my guru told me, he says, no, go to the West, learn the householders, the homemakers' way of life, gain the experiences, because your destiny is to teach the man, the householder, and without the experience, how can you teach? Many monks come along with yellow robes and things like that. Holy, 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 untouchable, don't touch me, sit far away. No, I don't believe in that. A monk to be a monk is no good for me. I don't like the monkey business.
She was pull toward kind of the idea of the monk in the forest or whatever, also pull toward married life. Almost, they both seem to be equally strong for me. Like, the sign Pisces, the two fish, one swimming upstream, one swimming downstream. Like I think a lot of also had to do with the pull. That being kind of I've been going across the mountain for 6 years now, but not I would say 100% success for it. But it's still, but I still kind of schizophrenic, it's like.
Nice. I can't answer your question because I can't understand a word of your accent. Sorry. The lady, yeah.
I think you likened human love to a flower. Well, is it reasonable to expect that flower to last forever, or should one be prepared for it to fade and die as flowers do? I mean, did you believe in
love lasts forever. Love is eternal because the nature of love is God and God is love. Love is God and God is love. It is eternal. And when two people are really bound by love, and if their bodies are dropped, and if you do believe in reincarnation, you will find that the bond created by that love would be so strong that you'd be born again together in the same plane, this world or on another planet, and never mind you could be but two opposite corners of the world, you will still find some way, some forces of nature will act to bring the two of you together. Yes, yes. True. We were talking of meditation. This one man goes to a real estate agent, a realtor, and he says, I want to buy a house, but it must be a mile away from the nearest neighbor. I want total solitude. So this real estate agent was a meditator. So he says, do you want a place of solitude for meditation? So he says, no, I want to practice my saxophone. I think, Chetanji, you've made an appointment. And won't these people be waiting for us for dinner? What time is arranged? 10 o'clock. Oh, we're still early. It's only 25 past 10. Thank you very much. We could go on for the whole night, really. We come to the 2-day intensive and we'll have from 9 o'clock in the morning till 6 at night together. And of course, I'll be granting private interviews for any problems you have, physical or mental, and of course healings as well, if wherever required. But when it comes to healings, bring me the cases where doctors have failed. Thank you. Namaste. It has been so nice being with you.